Once again, I have my handy notes over here, so let's jump into it. As the title says, 5 tarantula misconceptions, and I would like to apologize for second talking only video in a row, although this one will be much shorter than Monday's one. That one covered a lot of information and I'm happy that you enjoyed it, even though it was such a long video. But to make up for it, I have another really long video coming, and this will finally be the full collection tour on this Monday, and that is actually, I think, one day before Christmas, so you can look at it as Christmas special. Now that I said that Monday's video will in fact be full collection tour, I need to make it now, no more postponing. This video was postponed for a long time, and we will go through 5 most common, at least in my opinion, most common tarantula misconceptions. Did I say misconceptions? Misconceptions. 5 tarantula misconceptions. Top 5, but they will not be in a particular order. And also I'm doing this video as a collaboration with Em.
That would be me.
She got the YouTube channel called Emzotic. It is also about exotic animals. So I joined her on her latest video, and it is also about top 5 biggest misconceptions about some other really misunderstood animal, and that is about snakes. So after this video I will point you to her video so you can check that out. And if you came here from her video, I hope you will also enjoy this one, and if you do, consider subscribing. Now let's start with tarantula misconceptions. Em, what is the first one?
They are called bird eaters because, well, they eat birds.
Technically this misconception is not entirely wrong. I often see comments in my videos where people ask if I have a bird eater tarantula. And usually they are referring to Theraphosa blondi, but technical term bird eater could refer to majority of bigger ground-dwelling tarantulas. But the origin of that name is actually really interesting. And just to be clear, this is my understanding of the situation, and I could maybe understood something wrong, I don't know. The origin of the name actually comes from one old drawing. You know, back in the day when people from Europe started exploring the New World, they never before interacted with huge spiders, and those explorers and scientists were actually first time witnessing such creatures. And there is a specific old drawing that I'm not really sure who made it. Good thing I researched and checked my facts before this video, right? So there is a photo with bunch of spiders, different spiders, and on that photo you can see there is a certain big spider, and it appears that it caught a bird. Now if you look closely at this tarantula, that is obviously a tarantula, if you look closely you see that it got pink toes. And when you say pink toe tarantula, that is referred to avicularias. I think avicularia is like the original pink toe. So actually first spider that was referred to as a bird eater spider was actually avicularia and not some ground dwelling species. You know, avicularias, they are arboreal tarantulas and they don't get really that big. So are they really a bird eaters? Technically tarantula can catch bird, that is definitely true. As long as the prey item is not too big, tarantula will try to catch it. Now, how often will some Theraphosa species living on the ground in the burrow encounter a bird wandering into its burrow? Really rarely, I would say. But in that situation, if tarantula is outside and hungry, it will definitely grab it and use its opportunity. But it certainly isn't a usual diet. And now if avicularias can catch a bird, they are a bit smaller. Avicularias are like this maybe. So some smaller species of bird, yeah, but also a bit of stretch. You know, tarantulas they sit and wait for their prey. They aren't really active hunters. They don't see that good, so they need to sit and wait and hope for some birds to really fly and sit next to a tarantula. So yes, technically they can eat bird, but they can also eat a mouse, and you don't call them mouse eaters or roach eaters. I guess for some reason when those explorers came back home bringing stories about a spider that can catch a bird, it is something that you remember, and I guess it got stuck because of that. Enough of that misconception. Em, what is the next one?
Their bite is deadly, or as weak as a bee sting.
Yeah, 90% of my friends and relatives or whoever come here to the dark den without really any knowledge about tarantulas, they will either think that tarantulas have like no venom or really weak venom, or that they can kill you. What people don't really realize is that there is over 900 described species and who knows how many undescribed species. So really to generalize something like that is impossible. As we all know, we have New World tarantulas, as I talked in the previous video, in my last video. New World tarantulas and Old World tarantulas. New World tarantulas got really mild venom, although I was never bit by a tarantula. Let's keep that rolling. It is described as a bee sting, so really weak venom. And then you have old world tarantulas, and when you read a bite report about an OBT bite, oh, you really rethink the situation. The venom is extremely potent and extremely painful. It can also be followed with cramps, and all of that can last multiple days, so really painful and not a pleasant experience, but still not deadly. There is also one misconception that goes with this one. Apparently, if you're allergic to bee sting, then you will also be allergic to tarantula bite and you can potentially die because of it. But I'm pretty sure that some hobbyist with allergy to bees was already bit by a tarantula, and I know that there is no recorded death from tarantula bite, so it seems like that information is not really correct. And also, this is also something that I read, but I'm not sure if it's entirely true. Tarantula venom and bee venom are completely different on the chemical level, so if you're allergic to bee sting, you shouldn't be also allergic automatically on tarantula bite. But the good thing is tarantulas don't really bite unless they are provoked. If you're careful with them and don't mess with them, you probably won't be bit. I mean, possibility is always there, but if you're careful, you will be alright. Next misconception.
They are 12 inches big.
The dinner plate comparison. Also, 90% of people that come here, they expect that tarantulas are all huge monsters. 12 inches, how many centimeters that is? Like 30? Yeah, 30 centimeters. Really huge tarantula would that be. Again, it is generalizing. While there are 900 different tarantula species, which is not actually people's fault. If you don't care about tarantulas, you don't really know that information. But there is huge variety between tarantula sizes. You have dwarf tarantulas that are like 2-3 centimeters, 4 centimeters max, so that is like 1 or 2 inches maybe. And then you can have a 10-inch behemoth, Teraphosa blondie, Styrmi. Apparently Pezzoteria ornata and Rufilata can also reach that size, although Theraphosas are much bulkier and they have like huge body. Pezzoteria, since they are arboreal, they have like long and slender body together with long legs, so although they can also reach that size, they are not as heavy as Teraphosa. Teraphosa is really the king of the tarantula weight, I guess. I don't think that anyone in hobby had a tarantula, I mean Teraphosa, that is bigger than 10 inches. I know that there are claims, but I think it was never backed up with actual pictures of tarantula besides the ruler, without a forced perspective or something. But apparently there were wild-caught specimens that were that size. But it is all, like, to my understanding, questionable and not really documented properly. And actually the biggest spider documented is some heteropoda species, a huntsman spider, not a tarantula, but they also have long legs and not really the big bulk that is the most impressive. Misconception number 4.
Tarantulas in pet stores are defanged and devenomized.
This one is really interesting and funny, and I don't really understand who and how started that misconception, that myth, because that is really a myth. Even I as kid thought that that is the truth. I don't know if someone really told me or I just assume it, but I'm pretty sure that someone told me that in an actual pet shop. So my assumption would be that sellers, people working in pet shops, would be telling that to clients because that way it would be easier to convince someone to buy a tarantula if it's defanged and devenomized, so it's totally harmless. But of course that is like complete lie and complete myth, because it doesn't have anything to do with the reality. The thing is, tarantulas and all other spiders, they need their venom. They cannot survive without it. They don't have a mouth like we do. They cannot chew stuff. Instead, they inject venom that actually liquefies everything inside of their prey, and they just suck it up. That's how they feed. And if somehow you manage to remove their venom gland so they cannot produce venom, they wouldn't be able to feed, because they will not be able to liquefy their prey and suck it up, and they cannot chew through it to eat it. And that also applies to fangs. If you remove them fangs, again, they cannot chew and they cannot eat the prey. But actually maybe they were doing that to tarantulas. When it comes to pet shops, I wouldn't really be surprised, because tarantula can actually survive a long time without eating, like 6 months, a year, and that would be long enough time for a pet shop to just cut its fangs and just sell it and don't care about it anymore. So maybe it wasn't actually a myth in that way, but something terrible to do. Really, really terrible. But it wouldn't really surprise me. If you consider what are humans capable to do to other humans, then what they potentially can do to tarantula is really not that surprising. So sad. But so weird that this is still really common for people to think. And the final, the most notorious tarantula misconception, if you ask majority of hobbyists.
They need a sponge to suck up water, and they can also drown.
It is crazy how this myth is alive, and it is even crazier that it is still practiced. I still get questions from people asking me if they need to use sponge. I still see pictures from pet shops with tarantula water dishes filled with sponge. So it is really insane with all the information that is available on the internet. Basically anyone who did any research past the Jungle Bob's video will know that sponges are really something that you need to avoid. So not only that it is not necessary, it is actually harmful. When you put sponge in a standing water, what do you get? You get ton of bacteria, and you don't want ton of bacteria inside of your enclosure, especially in water that your pet is drinking. There are two reasons that are used as a reason to use sponge. One is that tarantula can drown, and the other one is that tarantula cannot drink water, but it needs to suck it from the sponge. And this is really beyond my understanding of logic. If someone can suck water from sponge, why it shouldn't be able to suck just water from, I don't know, water? Why is that concept so baffling to someone? I don't get it. And when it comes to tarantulas drowning, let's do a little experiment. Just a second. Now I won't be putting a tarantula inside of the water. I will actually use old tarantula mold. I broke the leg. So this is our tarantula for today. Let's put this camera and let me demonstrate this. Some water. Now watch. Oh, look at this. Crazy, right? Let's drown it a bit. And look, it is completely dry even though I put it inside of the water. You cannot drown tarantula mold, just like you cannot drown the actual tarantula. You see these air bubbles? The water cannot even touch the tarantula's mold, the tarantula's exoskeleton. It is actually something really amazing, but no, tarantulas cannot drown. In fact, they can easily swim and just move across the water. So that myth also doesn't make any sense. And I think the reason why pet shop actually used sponge in tarantulas water dishes, it is because crickets will actually drown in the water dish. And in pet shops, they just dump a bunch of crickets in the enclosure and leave it like that. They don't really bother with it. So of course, if you have deep enough water dish, those crickets will drown, and they wanted to prevent that, so they probably put sponge because of that. But yeah, you see why pet shops are like a source of misconceptions and myths. So that was all tarantula misconceptions. Em, do you have anything else to say?
Hey guys, feel free to come over to my channel after this 5 misconceptions about tarantulas video to learn 5 common misconceptions about snakes. Hope to see you there. Did you just slap my face? Feel free to click on that link magically up there. Hope to see you there after this video. Now, back to the dark den. Whoosh.
So you heard her, here is the link, also in the description. Go and check out that video. But also, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, thumbs it up and comment something. If you want to support this channel even more, there's a Patreon page. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. I upload every Monday, Friday. So see you again soon. Bye bye.